Welcome back, True Seeker. It is July 2nd, 2024. It's the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act being signed, something that was symbolic, but not really helpful. A lot of people's quality of life has severely declined since the Civil Rights Act. Anyhow, I want to talk about what's in the news, things that did happen yesterday, and things buzzing today. What's been huge is the hurricane that just went through the Caribbean and caused a lot of devastation, and it is now targeting Jamaica. They're saying tomorrow it's expected to impact Jamaica. And yeah, we're going to look at that. Another big storm system that happened yesterday that didn't really get any attention in Western media is what happened in Burma. Burma had crazy, unprecedented flooding yesterday, July 1st, 2024. And again, it's sad that we've been here for a decade and there's not more people that are helping get out the word about what we've been talking about. But again, there's a very repetitive pattern with crazy storms, unprecedented storms, flooding. And I was made fun of by Vice News with this article right here. It says, FYI, this story is over 5 years old. Again, I've been talking about this for over a decade. Wacko YouTuber approves World Series was rigged. We're going to talk a little baseball today, too. But the reason this fits in is because the year that Houston won their first World Series was the year that Harvey flooded Houston. And you might recall everything we covered that year if you were watching, including the first pitcher to pitch in Houston after the flooding being Matt Harvey. But in this article, if you read it, he quotes me here where I was talking about 52 and flooding, and he's making it sound like it's so stupid. But from way before this happened to many times since this happened, we've talked about the same thing, the number 52 in crazy weather, hurricanes, and floods. And if you weren't here at the time, days before August 27th, 2017, I pointed out how that date had 52 date numerology. It was the 239th day of the year, which is the 52nd prime number. That's the big flood code. It'd make a lot of sense if Harvey flooded Texas on August 27th. We were talking about that days before Harvey flooded Texas on August 27th. Not to mention, it was also the anniversary of Stevie Ray Vaughan's death, whose best-selling album in history was Texas Flood. And then you can get into his death, which is a whole nother topic, very suspicious, like so many entertainers have had suspicious deaths. But July 1st, 2024 had 52 date numerology. And again, you get this hurricane that devastates the Caribbean on this day. And again, 52 date numerology, you just get it by adding 7 plus 1 plus 20 plus 24, which is 52. Hurricane has the gematria of 52 when you use the alphabetic order with numerology. Flood, Earth, Enlil have the gematria of 52 when you just use the alphabetic order. Again, Enlil's the Babylonian god of flooding. And one other piece about Babylon is Babylon has the gematria 71, like how these floods happened on the 7th month, first day, 7-1. So we'll come back to this, but I did do a video yesterday on Hurricane Beryl, so we'll come back and talk more about it. It's just Myanmar didn't get any attention. And funny enough, it's Kachin State in Myanmar. Again, Myanmar, also known as Burma, is divided into 7 areas, and it's mostly divided among religious lines. Kachin State's the very Christian part of Myanmar. So they're very familiar with the story of the biblical flood. But yeah, just crazy flooding in Myanmar. And look at the name of the river that flooded on July 1st. The Enme River, 71 floods. And again, on the 52 date numerology, just crazy rainfall, unprecedented flooding, and a lot of people impacted. This headline says 10,000 people impacted. Again, you guys, Myanmar is densely packed with population. That's probably a severe underestimate of how many people were impacted. Remember, Myanmar is the size of Texas, but about 60 million people live there. Here, population of Texas. Population of Texas is way less than 60 million, but they're about the same size. So just to get a comparison. Texas has 30 million people in it. So there's twice as many people crammed into Myanmar. Um, so yeah, here we're going to talk about both these things plus some other stuff that was buzzing in the news. But again, the weather warfare. I've been saying it for years. I think weather warfare it's one of the hardest subjects for people to wrap their mind around because of ignorance and because they have no clue about anything and they've ignored all the signs in history. Remember, with regards to this 52 thing that we were just talking about, weather warfare first admitted to in 1952 on what day? August 15th, which is the Jesuit order's birthday. And every year there's huge rituals on August 15th. A recent one was Afghanistan's government collapsing after the needlessly contrived Jesuit false flag of September 11th, 2001, and then the needless Jesuit crusades in the Middle East, all for it to end with 20 years of waste in terms of life and resources. And a bigger problem begins on the Jesuit order's birthday. That's the way these psychopaths work that rule this world. And it's amazing, too, that people don't understand this who rules the world. I mean, people don't even know the origins of their own country here in the United States. The Protestant Reformation is essentially what brought about the United States of America. And what was the Protestant Reformation against? The Catholic Church, who the Jesuits serve. Again, it's amazing. It's amazing how dumb people are. Deaf, dumb, blind, ignorant. Morons out there trying to attack my work, saying, "Oh, Jesuits, they don't even have anything to do with anything." It's like, okay, what founders were worried about Zionist Jews ruling the world? Oh, none, zero, because it wasn't even a thing back then. What founders were worried about Jesuits taking over the newly formed country? Several, including the two that were presidents at the beginning of the country who died on the same day, coincidentally, July 4th. I'm just waiting for the day that they announced Jimmy Carter and Joe Biden dead in the same day, and people still don't get the joke. But anyway, look at this. Hurricane Beryl, this town, have you guys, if you have not looked up this, some European guy went to this town, and he put out a lot of videos online of what this hurricane looked like in this town that got wasted yesterday, that got the worst of it in the Caribbean. Yeah, if you search for the name of this town, Caracau, you'll find his videos. He uploaded several high def videos. He was right there recording, just watching the town just get decimated. And he interviewed a lot of people. And what's cool is the people of that place, even though their town got wrecked, almost all of them still have a big smile on their face, and they're like, "We're still alive. We're still alive." That's the nice thing about poor people, man. They don't make their life about materialism. They make their life about life. And you can see that in this population that got wasted, except for one guy. There's one guy he interviews, and he has jewelry all over. He's the only guy I see with jewelry, but he's got big earrings, necklace, and maybe he was doing better than the average guy in that town before the storm. But he explains that his mom's house is destroyed, his house is gone, his business is gone. He had a food truck, which is also gone. And he's the only guy not smiling out of all the people that get interviewed, because his whole life is upside down. But the one thing, and I almost want to dig up the video right now and just play it. Again, there's something really symbolic when you look at everybody interviewed and how almost everyone's carefree about it and smiling because they're still alive. But the one guy who's all draped out in the jewelry, and again, who seems to have had multiple properties, he's the most devastated because he made his life about materialism. And that's what almost everyone does in Western culture, because that's what society breeds. And you have all these really unhappy, depressed, anxious-filled people, because that's what the average Westerner is, just a thing for materialism. Their whole life's about materialism. So yeah, that's also a lesson to be learned if you dig up the videos on what just happened to this town. But it's pretty crazy to watch how just everything is getting shredded, and how the storm is just, it seems like it's just sitting there, just ripping the whole place apart. But look at the name of this town that got the worst of it, that also became the focus of the media. 44. What were we talking about the day before this storm hit? The day that this became a hurricane officially, and they said it jumped up to a Category 4. That was Sunday. Covered this on Sunday. It was a date with 44 numerology. And the number that we see all the time in these storms right next to 52 is 44. 4 is a number of death and destruction. It's the military number. Again, HARP, the technology that has the power to influence and strengthen storms, has the 44 connection. It's military technology. Notice Washington Post, their story yesterday just wouldn't refresh. It just stayed on 44 minutes ago for forever. And you'll notice that the media does these kind of things all the time if you pay attention. That the first known hurricane to impact this region was in 1944, funny enough. And remember, the first act of weather warfare was admitted to in 1952, but that doesn't mean that that's when it began. And funny enough, that was the day before the Jesuit order's birthday when that happened, August 14th, 44. Again, the first act of weather warfare admitted to is the Lynmouth flood, August 15th, 52. But yeah, this also reminds of the hurricane that brought no rain last year, just brought crazy fire in Maui, and it was all synced up with Joe Biden and the 44th president, Joe Biden's old wingman, who's supposedly from Hawaii. But we were talking about the 44s last year in a major way with what they did to Maui, Hurricane Dora, and yeah, you just got to say, what are the odds that the place that got it the worst, again, has that fateful 44 connection? HARP, the technology, was patented August 11th, 1987. That was a date with 44 numerology, okay? And remember, it was patented on the 223rd day of the year. HARP stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, which has that 223 connection like natural disaster. And we were looking at this on Sunday because the Sunday article, when this hurricane formed, it said that this is way earlier than normal. That typically the first hurricane of the year happens around August 11th. And like I said on Sunday, I've never seen that reported or written anywhere about August 11th. But right away reading it from talking about this stuff for so many years, I said, well, that's the day HARP was designed. And it is interesting that it wasn't 87 because we know Ignatius Loyola, the founder of the Jesuits, his name equals 87. We're in the time of the first Jesuit Pope, who's 87 years old. Of course, Pope has that gematria of 52, like we're on the Catholic calendar with the 52-week year named for the Pope. And I want to make another point about just 52 and devastating storms and the history of weather warfare. There's a relationship with the number 52 and the number 106. And that word that connects those numbers is prophecy. Prophecy equates to 106 and 52. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because, again, what Lyndon Johnson said 60 years ago. Lyndon Johnson said at Jesuit Holy Cross on June 10th, a date that can be written 10/6 as it's written in the majority of the world. But Lyndon Johnson said, who controls the weather controls the world. And the thing we've always pointed out about the English language is, again, in the 4-base cipher system, the alphabetic order forwards and backwards with numerology, you'll see these numbers come together a lot in flood rituals. And notice when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, flood is 83. Genesis 8:3 is where the story of the biblical flood ends. And again, it's prophecy, right? God told Noah to prepare for what was coming. And just to go back, there's plenty of examples of this, but this was a big one. Hawaii the other year on March 8th, a date that can be written 8/3. It was March 8th, 2021. It was a date with 52 numerology. So you had 52 numerology and the 8/3 combination for the date. But they said on that day that Hawaii and Maui specifically experienced the worst flooding in 25 years. And again, look at the base ciphers of flood and earth. And again, it's Genesis 8:3, where the biblical flood ends after 150 days. And 150 is an interesting number too, because here, look at this recent example. This is last year on March 8th. Last year on March 8th, very similar thing. California residents urged to prepare for powerful storm. And March 8th just happens to be the 150th day of Jesuit Gavin Newsom's age. So think about it. Just people are totally overlooking the jokes that are that are done to us day after day. But think about it. The biblical flood ends after 150 days in Genesis 8:3. On the date 8:3, they got the perfect Jesuit stooge in there, Gavin Newsom, so that all of this lines up. And don't forget, California and Gavin Newsom both have the 52 connection, and you know the other joke they had on California last year was Hurricane Hillary, which was way overhyped, but it did its damage on Bill Clinton's birthday, and of course, Bill and Hillary are Jesuit educated like Gavin Newsom. Again, all roads lead him back to Rome, and yeah, again, it's sad that we've been presenting this for so long, undeniably, and like this article written making fun of the work. I mean, what was to make fun of at this point? Everything was correct. The prediction for when Texas was going to flood landed. The prediction for why the Astros would beat the Dodgers synced up with the manufactured storm in Houston that landed. And proves World Series. I mean, there should have been an article written like this for the 111th, 112th, 113th. There should have been an article written like this about my work in the World Series every year since I've been here. We've done it every single year. Last year, game 1 of the season, it was between the Rangers and Phillies. 267 days after George W. Bush's birthday, the Philadelphia area code. Very symbolic box score. We said, wow, the Rangers got 50-1 odds, and it looks like they're World Series bound. What did we say for the World Series once the Rangers got there? We said, look, if they win it in Game 5, they'll win the 119th World Series on the 119th day of Bush's age. Exactly what happens. The year before that, spring training, we say, well, Philadelphia is the 118 city. They look like they're going to the World Series. Philly in the World Series. 117th, Braves changed the ballpark name to Truist Park. 117. Braves win the 117th World Series. 116th World Series was the tribute to Jackie Robinson after Mookie went to the Dodgers on 4-2, shortly after Kobe's death in the middle of a field where they said he died on the 4200 block. 115th World Series all synced with Donald Trump and the Nationals. Trump, who hired the Nationals announcer. You could just go on and on and on. Every year, it's a rigged ritual. But sometimes it's about the weather. It's just like Katrina wipes out New Orleans. Federal government supposedly not prepared, even though for a whole week cable news said New Orleans was in big trouble. But then remember what Super Bowl that they won. The Saints win Super Bowl 44. Saints does happen to equal 44, but after they get whacked by the Hurricane Katrina. And Katrina is one of those names that's also 52. You know, very memorable hurricane. Katrina 52. Katrina is also 74. The qualifying wind speeds for a hurricane are 74 miles per hour. Whole nother topic. For the record, this article was the 113th World Series. The year before that was the year the Cubs broke the 108-year drought. The year before that was the 111th, where New York, the 111, the land of 111, they went to the 111th World Series, which they lost on November 1st after Matt Harvey's 111th pitch. With Eric Hosmer coming up to the plate with a 111 batting average for the World Series before he drives in the first run. Nothing but scripture, guys. All is number. Again, I'm just so annoyed. Like I hate that here we are all these years later, and it seems like almost still there's no difference in the world of people being aware of what's going on. 2020, you think everybody would have heard about it. 2020, before hurricane season began, we went and circled every date during hurricane season that had 52 date numerology, and we said, here, let's see how many of these we end up talking about a hurricane. Every single one is how it worked out. It's only been that way one time in all the years we've done this. But again, you can go through and circle all the 52 dates. For example, it's pretty easy to do. The next 52 date will be July 21st, 24. 7 plus 21 plus 24 is 52. Then it'll be August 20th, 24. You only got one day in August. It's going to have 52. And then it'll be September 19th, 24. And then it'll be October 18th, 24. Those are all the dates with 52 numerology. So Oh, the other thing to look at would also be the 83 dates. There would be some 83 dates, but 52 is usually the one, and here we are again, just same pattern we talked about so many times. It was 2020 where we circled all the 52 dates, and there were more in that year the way it fell because, like in 2020, you had, or God, was it the year 2021 where we circled all the dates? It was either 2020 or 2021, but either way, you still had more 52 dates that year than you will this year just because of we have this bigger number now with 24. So it's like think about August 1st. August 1st will have 53 date numerology, whereas July 1st had 52. So you're only going to end up having that one day in August, August 20th, 24, that'll have the 52 date. But yeah, just watch. I'm sure we'll be back here on the same days talking about very similar things. And I'll have even more hair turning gray because it's just annoying. It's annoying that there's supposedly people that want to put out information in the world to wake people up to they. You know, you look at most of these other truth channels, they never take it past they. Everything's just they. It's like, who's they? You haven't figured out who they is yet, huh? But just lots of useless speculation. And again, we're way past useless speculation. We're showing you who's doing it, undeniably. You know, go watch what we said on Sunday about how perfectly synced the creation of the hurricane was with the Jesuits and the Superior General. And all the numbers that were encoded in that ritual are the numbers that end up being the devastation the next day. So, oh, by the way, just the governor of Grenada, where that got the worst of it, she's 71 years old right now. The governor of Grenada is 71 as her land gets wrecked on 7-1. Remember, Catholic equals 71, Babylon equals 71, Whore of Babylon equals 71, the Society of Jesus, 71. So she's 71, and look at what year she was born. She was born in 52. She's been governor for 11 years, and this happens. Again, Enlil is the Babylonian god of flooding. The Catholic Church is the whore of Babylon. I didn't come up with that. A lot of people have been saying that for a long time. You learn this little code, it starts to make a lot more sense. And I wrote about that in my last book, Number Games. You see how they had to do the 150 thing here as well? Beryl made landfall shortly after 11 a.m. on Grenada's Caracas Island in the Caribbean Sea with max winds of 150 miles per hour. What we were just saying about, again, Genesis 8:3, where the story of the biblical flood ends, how they love to bring these same numbers together over and over. And don't forget, Illuminati equals 150. And what was the Illuminati founded by? A Jesuit, Adam Weishaupt. The Illuminated. Uh, in terms of destruction yesterday, it was the 183rd day of the year, leaving 183 days left in the year because it's a leap year, so you have 366 days. So it was the midway point. The phrase order out of chaos is 183. And, you know, the psychopaths, perhaps they've had their eyes on this little island and they got a little development plan there. They know they wipe people off their land, put them in a bad spot, take away their resources, their livelihood, give them no way to rebuild. They can come in and buy it for pennies on the dollar and set up a nice little resort town there. So many advantages to disaster capitalism. Again, the world is run by central bankers. Remember, the original bankers are the Templars, and that's why the Templar cross right in the middle of the Jesuit logo. Again, just so many little clues in history. Presidents leaving office and telling you about this military industrial complex that'll grow beyond your worst nightmare. This is what it looks like. Using the military to destroy because they don't care about these people or their property. What they care about is how, those governments will need a loan from a bank, which will get more profit off the interest for the bankers, give them more control over these nations. They can't repay their debts. They're like, that's fine. We'll just come in and take your land and your property. Here, we'll set up a resort there and make our money that way. It's the way this world's working. Jesuits, art of war. That's the whole art of war tactic. deceive your enemy, trick your enemy, fight them in ways that they can't even understand. How about weather warfare? It's like I've said a million times, I'm not even sure they need another world war like what we think of when we think of World War I and World War II. The future world wars could just be weather warfare all over the place, putting everybody out of commission. Yeah, the Windward Islands is also the name of this territory that got messed up, which has the 231. And we talked about how the hurricane formed the day prior, exactly 231 days after the Superior General's birthday. Yesterday's lesser date numerology was 32, like Grenada, which got the worst of it. And that island in Grenada, Caracau. Everything's saint, right? So, I mean, isn't it obvious how Catholic it is? Saint this, saint that. It's where Columbus came in, paid for by the Catholic Church, and name this and name that. You guys got to put away the Jews run the world thing. All these places are named by the Catholic Church, nothing but Catholic history, their religion all over the place. Think of a pie chart with religion. Think about how small Judaism would be in it, and think about how massive Catholicism would be in it. And then think about why they'd want to bring about biblical prophecy, crazy storms and weather. And they got their whole flock like, oh my God, these are the signs right from the Bible. They didn't understand that these people use the Bible like a football coach uses a playbook. But yeah, and Myanmar's not getting the attention. But yeah, they got wasted with flooding yesterday too. The perfect river flooded on the perfect date, and yeah, just based on how densely populated that place is, I'm sure it was a lot more than 10,000 people impacted. That is a lot of people anyway, 10,000. But I'm sure it's way more. It's probably more like millions of people. And what's sad is, again, in that place, a lot of people aren't even at home right now. They've been made to evacuate because there's been crazy war stuff going on in that same area, bombs going off and whatnot. So you're dealing with that, and the next thing you know, all your property is destroyed with crazy flooding. All right, so yeah, just bringing up just recent examples. Same stuff over and over again. Genesis 8:3, where the biblical flood ends after 150 days. What they did last year in California on Newsom's 150th day of his age on 8:3. Remember, the Jesuit order and weather control, perfect overlap in 3 out of the 4 ciphers. And it goes with the 201 part goes with Lyndon Johnson, 201 days after JFK's death, being at the Jesuit University Holy Cross, talking about who controls the weather, controls the world. Again, it goes with what they did to Yellowstone the other year on the day, leaving 201 days left in the year, a once in a 1,000-year rain event. It goes with Gavin Newsom deciding not to shut down the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant 201 days from his birthday because Bill Gates has pointed out that he thinks the way, and remember, Bill Gates is Mr. 201, connected through to the Jesuits through Melinda Gates. Bill Gates, who said that he thinks nuclear energy is the thing that's going to take us to zero carbon emissions. So see Gavin Newsom going, oh, actually, I'm not all the way against nuclear energy because, you know, my gang recently put out the idea that nuclear energy is what's going to save us. And again, go listen to what Bill Gates said in 2010 at his TED Talk, Innovating to Zero. Talks about how we got to reduce the population. We can do it if we do a good job with those things that look like the Space Needle directly across the street from his foundation. Talks about how we have to go into the Russia-Ukraine area where there's tons of spent nuclear energy fuel that can be used for his new nuclear reactors. Talks about how gasoline should be $5 to $10 a gallon. Everything he talked about has unfolded since then. And it all started about exactly a decade after he did that speech, which was just days from his decade of vaccine speech, where he said in 10 years, let's have a push to vaccinate the entire world. And then he got it. And hold on. Did I forget to put up this story? Here, this is what CNN has this buzzing as a top story this morning, that world governments owe 91 trillion in debt. Here, I got to write out the Society of Jesus, the full title. I want you to see a couple things. The Society of Jesus. Again, that's the Jesuits. Yesterday, when Biden gave his speech about the Supreme Court's dangerous ruling for Trump that makes him like a king, it's just annoying to listen to stuff. It's like, are people just now catching on that American presidents are like kings? I mean, I saw this before I was even old enough to vote. I was 17 when we got King George II in the state where his brother was the governor. Couldn't have been any more obvious. But yesterday was 224 days after Biden's birthday on 7/1. Anyway, the four base ciphers, the Society of Jesus also has the 91. So CNN is writing about how world governments, the world is sitting on a $91 trillion problem. Hard choices are coming. You read the article, right at the beginning, it says, debt burdens have grown so large in part because of the cost of the pandemic. Remember what we were showing in the pandemic? Again, I don't think anyone put out better research or work or made more accurate predictions, but we were showing all the significance of the ages of world banks that were very important at the time, just how perfect everything was with the pandemic, how it was this massive banker Switzerland takeover, and just making everybody beholden to central banks with the crazy spending and lending. And again, before we got our first stimulus check, I told everybody, I said, massive inflation is coming. That's what they're doing. They're going to make everything more expensive so you can afford to buy less. That's why next thing you know, you got Klaus Schwab saying you'll own nothing and be happy. That this is all part of their plan to make a society of serfs that are just at the mercy of authorities, the people who control the wealth, which again is the banking class. But yeah, 91 trillion. I mean, it's another shout out to the Jesuit cabal. And again, every face of the pandemic, didn't matter what corner of the world you looked to, was Jesuit educated. Just kept showing that day after day. Notice CNN does throw up this article on 7/2, July 2nd, 7/2, Jesuit Order 72, first Jesuit Pope on the 72nd day of the year. But yeah, and people want Donald Trump, the Jesuit-educated scumbag who was the perfect pawn for the pandemic, why he lined up with every ritual they did to us. But people literally think this guy coming back is going to be a good thing. The guy who went along with this agenda, Mr. Mega, the highest degree of the Church of Satan, where the Church of Satan, the first tenet is to worship yourself, which is all Donald Trump does. I'm the best. He's the worst. It's like, in what world would you ever be the best, Donald Trump? You're the best at what? Undermining America? America, the idea of America was never more undermined in our lifetimes than in the time of Donald Trump. Again, lockdowns, land of the free, home of the brave. We were scared of a virus that was 99.9% survivable, that was killing elderly people in nursing homes. Doesn't sound very brave. I mean, I wasn't ever afraid of it. I showed you guys every day. I did a live stream showing how to shop at stores where masks were required and tell these people to fuck off. Of course, I did lose my Costco membership. I did a nice live stream in Costco explaining to all the all the employees that when I signed up for my Costco membership, there was never anywhere in the contract that I need to wear a slave muzzle in that doesn't do jack shit besides make me look like a dumbass. And they couldn't do anything about it. I just went on shopping. I might have had a pack of 5 employees follow me around. But again, they couldn't stop it. And when I was done, I paid for my groceries. But of course, after I did film the YouTube video, I'd already gone into Costco several times without a mask in the time of the pandemic, where they were making everybody line up and put masks on. But when I made the YouTube video about it, I got a letter in the mail letting me know that my Costco membership had been canceled. But really, that's what everyone should have done, and put these places out of business. And remember, Costco's out of Seattle, just like Billy Goat Gates. Like Jeff Bezos. Pretty much everything that took over the world was out of Seattle. Isn't that funny? Isn't it funny? Seattle equals 82 like COVID. I believe also like innovating to zero, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go back and double check that. Innovating to zero. That was the name of Bill Gates' TED Talk. Yeah, innovating to zero. 82. Also 89 like virus. 224 like the Society of Jesus. Remember, COVID's 82. Pfizer, the biggest beneficiary of the scam, 82. All right. This headline yesterday after the Supreme Court's ruling, how they put the emphasis on official acts. Notice the gematria of official acts: 220 and 76, like Donald John Trump. Remember, we talked about this before the debate, how it was 220 days after Biden's birthday, and how from Trump's birthday to inauguration days, 220 days, and how it looked like the debate was a setup to elevate Trump's status in this election. And we've been saying for years why it makes sense if he comes back and becomes the nation's second split-term president in tribute to Grover Cleveland when he had his 2016 convention in Cleveland, and Cleveland equals 78, like Trump's current age, like how old Joe Biden was when he took office. And then just being the Jesuit little pawn that Trump is, he left office at 74. The election was called for Biden while he was at 74 million votes. Again, Jesus equals 74, like cross, like Messiah, like gospel, like parables, like how over in Israel, they've written headlines that Trump could be the Jewish Messiah. What a joke that is. But again, Jesus comes back. He returns. He resurrects. In this case, Trump resurrecting his presidency all in one big, sick, twisted joke. AOC, another one of these pawns. She said she planned to file articles of impeachment yesterday. She's getting ready to impeach Donald Trump when he comes back already. But notice this happened on her 263rd day of her age, the 56th prime. And remember, the two Trump impeachments were exactly 56 weeks apart and went with a million other 50. Well, there's always a million 56s in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. equals 56, like Society of Jesus, like coronavirus, like the pandemic being declared by Trump on Friday, March 13th, 2020, a 56 date numerology for the nation, which was also 56 years after his Jesuit education began at Fordham. And this January 6th was paid all kinds of tribute to the American Civil War, where Civil War also equals 56. And it was exactly 56 months after Captain America Civil War came out. Because again, there's a fine line between Hollywood and political theater. But something just stood out to me about the subheadline. Netflix has a show called Bloodline. It runs 33 episodes. It's about a powerful family in a community in Florida and how much corruption's really behind that family. But that family's called the Rayburn family. Just the picture of her's in the Rayburn house. Maybe I need to look more into the name Rayburn. I feel like that show Bloodline was another one of those things put out there for entertainment, but showing you, again, there's a lot of corruption behind power pretty much anywhere you go. Okay, the rigged NBA finals, which we called before the season began, just nobody even cares when we call these futures anymore. They just expect it. I'm like, well, that's what Zach does, man. He's been calling damn near every future since he got here. And haters will hate all they want, but again, Boston Celtics, only team in the league that equals 78, win the 78th NBA season. Game 1 was on their 78th birthday. Game 1 of the finals, that was. Day that Celtics turned 78, the anniversary of the RFK assassination, who was his death that year back in 68 was synced up with the Celtics championship. He died the year of their 22nd birthday, the Celtics, when Boston in basketball is 22. Remember this year when the Celtics advanced to the finals, Bill Walton, who finished his career at the Celtics, dropped dead at age 71. And then game 1 was on the 71st day of Luke Walton's age, his son, who played and coached in the NBA. But yeah, yesterday on 7-1, the Celtics team just goes up for sale. And again, if you read any of these articles, they all said that the news of it going up for sale came from an anonymous source. An anonymous source. And the media does that all the time with these anonymous sources. Might as well just say an Illuminati source, the real controller of the league, not these puppet owners or these puppet players. These people are all just characters on the stage. Doesn't matter what players would have been on that Celtics team. It would have been the same script. But on 7-1, the Celtics go up for sale. And it reminds me of the rituals they used to do with Chris Sale in Boston when he played for the Red Sox. Don't forget who told you the Boston Red Sox would beat the Dodgers in Game 5, 4-1, 99 days before the 99th NFL season ended, where Brady would also win with Boston over LA at age Super Bowl 40 or at age 41 in the Super Bowl. All of that unfolded, and we called all that in July, way before the MLB postseason began, way before the NFL season even began. But again, just how it all be scripted together. And Chris Sale wore 41 for Boston back then. I said, watch, Chris Sale will be a big part of that 4-1 series. And of course he was. But anyway, on 7-1, the Celtics are up for sale after winning the championship. Doesn't that seem weird? It's like, you just won a championship. You think profits would be like this? Doesn't, unless it's the idea of sell high, right? They know that they've hit this pinnacle, and maybe they've seen the script. Maybe it doesn't look good for the next 50 years for the Celtics. But that date can also be written 1-7, just like how 6 years ago to the day LeBron left the 17th state, Ohio. And we said that day, oh, we see the future. LeBron will win the Lakers their 17th championship in his 17th season. Exactly what he did. And they had to sacrifice Kobe in a nice Catholic ritual for it. But they're saying the man who's spearheading the sale of the team is the leader of the group that owns the Celtics, Wyc Grousbeck, born June 13th, the day leaving 201 days left in the year. Remember how this whole NBA Finals was paid tribute, or this whole NBA Finals paid tribute to JFK's assassination and RFK's assassination. A million different ways to prove it. We did it all throughout the series. If you missed out, we were talking about how before it began, why it mattered that Boston had outscored Dallas by 107 points in the all-time head-to-head, and then Game 1, Boston wins by 107, and then Boston wins the series on the 107th day of Jason Tatum's age. Again, these finals were set the day after what would have been JFK's 107th birthday. That would have been May 29th this year. The finals were set on May 30th. And that's typically the 150th day of the year, like Dallas Mavericks equals 150, like how the Adelson casino owner took over the Mavericks 150 weeks after her husband's death. And the small way Dallas Mavericks is 51, and she took over the team on the 51st day of her own age, and the Mavericks establishment date's 5-1, the anniversary of the Illuminati being founded, 5-1, like Dallas Mavericks equals 150 and Illuminati. But anyway, there were just a million little tributes to JFK assassination. Game 1, overtime, or not overtime, the halftime score was Celtics with 63, like the year JFK was killed. They went up 63-35 on the Porzingis bucket in Game 1 when JFK number 35 was killed on I-35 in 63 in Dallas. And then Walter Cronkite said some 38 minutes ago, and then all game for Porzingis, they had to tell you that he missed 38 days. And then the only game the Mavericks won was by 38 points, when Mavericks equals 38, like death, like murder, like killing, like RIP. But yeah, I noticed this guy's name, Wyc Grousbeck, equals 152 like Joe Biden. And that's wild, because before a game was played, I told my community there's a good chance that Boston starts the series 3-0, because then they would become 15-2 in the playoffs. And the Game 1 of the finals was 152 days before the election. Remember, they wiped out Bill Walton, whose birthday is the day of the election, November 5th. But Joe Biden, again, equals 152, and Joe Biden's Secret Service name is Celtic. And Celtics and Gematria equals 46, like JFK was killed at 46, like how Boston came into this series 46-40 versus the Mavs all time. Now, if you look, they're 50-41 versus the Mavericks all time. They played 91 games, like that Society of Jesus thing. 91's the 13th triangular, like that Dallas thing. But yeah, this owner of the team, he has all the numbers too. His name is 152-64, like Joe Biden. Joe Biden announces he's running for president. John Havlicek dies the same day. Pistol Pete died years ago, 46 days after Biden's birthday and Biden's 46th year of life. Then Pistol Pete's son dies in the time of these finals when they're doing all these tributes to the shootings of JFK and RFK. Pistol Pete. This guy, you see, he goes by the name Wyclef K. Grousbeck. Look at that, 201, and born on the day leaving 201 days left in the year. A day full of Jesuit history. And notice how June 13th equals the Jesuit order in 3 out of the 4 ciphers. And it equals weather control in all 4 ciphers. June 13th is the day that Yellowstone got devastated. The day leaving 201 days left in the year. June 13th, and weather control the exact same in all 4 ciphers. Remember earlier this year in Dubai, worst rainfall in 75 years of recording, 201 days from the anniversary of JFK's weather control speech. And then again, 201 days after JFK died, Lyndon Johnson said, "Who controls the weather controls the world," at Jesuit Holy Cross. By the way, Forbes, which is always putting out encoded information, Forbes says that the Celtics are worth $4.7 billion. Remember, the first pro basketball championship was in 47. What is 47? Always coming back to the same things. But yeah, what a day for the Celtics to go on sale by the numbers, because that's what pro sports are, scripted by the numbers. That's sadly what a lot of these things in this world are. It's on the TV. It's probably scripted by the numbers. Okay, and then this is also awesome. This guy, big-time prospect for the Nationals, made his debut yesterday. Look at this, you guys. Look how perfect this is all going to be. First of all, his name is James Wood. We're always talking about Manchurians in sports with the perfect names. James Wood. What distinguishes Major League Baseball from all other forms of baseball at this day and age? That they still use wood bats. Put the wood on the ball. But look at this. James Wood has a very significant birthday, September 17th. We're always coming back to that day, why it matters that Mahomes has that birthday. But look at this guy's full name, James Irvin Wood, 177, 69, 201, 84, just like the Jesuit order, right? And then what team does he play for? He plays for the Nationals, whose W in their logo is a cleverly encoded 201. 201. You see how the W is a 201? So this is what team he's playing for in the nation's capital, which didn't used to be the nation's capital, but it is where the Jesuits came and set up camp. And remember, the year that they established Georgetown, it was the year that we got George Washington as the first president, who was favorable to the Catholic Church. And that's when his story starts, the U.S. presidency. It could have been other guys, but they choose to say it was George Washington, the year of Jesuit Georgetown's establishment. And I noticed something interesting about him making his debut 288 days after his birthday, because that number was huge in the Chadwick Boseman death. And again, Chadwick Boseman died on the makeshift Jackie Robinson Day, which got shifted due to the Jesuit pandemic of COVID. And that was on, again, which was simulated with Event 201 by Klaus Schwab, whose name equals 177. But there were a lot of 288s in Boseman's death. This guy gets called up 288 days after his birthday. And funny enough, July 5th will be exactly 201 weeks since Chadwick Boseman died. You could argue that July 4th would be a span of 201 weeks. So yeah, I'm going to watch this guy getting. We are in the 201st week since Chadwick Boseman died on Jackie Robinson Day. Just young American black baseball player. Symbolic ritual, symbolic name. I'm wondering if we're watching the beginning of a future star in the sport. Not that many people even really follow baseball, but it used to be the game. So yeah, will he do something symbolic this week? His first at bat yesterday, his first major league at bat, he got a hit. First at bat was a single, and then he went 0 for 3 in his next 3 at bats, but first MLB plate appearance was a hit for James Wood. And then, just since they call him James Wood without the middle name, just to double down here, look at how James Wood overlaps with the team he plays for. James Wood equals 105. Remember, Jackie Robinson Day is the 105th day of the year. Remember what they did to the Black Eagle on the Jackie Robinson's birthday this year. James Wood and Nationals overlap in 3 out of the 4 ciphers. Remember when the Nationals got their team, it had been 33 years since DC had a team. And then when they went to the World Series, it was the first time since 33. And don't forget, before the postseason began that year, we explained why the Nationals were going to beat the Astros in Game 7 before the Nationals had not even clinched a spot in the playoffs when we explained why the Nationals would beat the Astros in Game 7 that year. But Game 7 was 138 days after Trump's birthday. Donald Trump equals 138, like Dave Martinez equals 138. That's the Nationals manager. Nationals 138, Federal 138. Again, Trump hired the 58-year-old Steve Ray for the inauguration of Trump. He was the Nationals announcer. Trump took office with the 115th Congress. The Nationals win the 115th World Series. Don't forget the Iowa caucus this year was January 15th, 115, and Trump won it with 56% of the vote. Like November 5th, the day of the election this year, 115 is the day leaving 56 days left in the year. But yeah, the only cipher where James Wood and Nationals don't overlap is 57. And of course, World Series also equals 57. And when the Nationals beat the Astros in that Game 7, 138 days after Trump's birthday, the Astros got their 57th franchise postseason loss all time. World Series the other way, 69, like Atlanta. When the Astros lost to Atlanta in the 117th World Series, they got their 69th postseason loss all time. And by the way, this guy making his debut against the New York Mets yesterday, New York equals 33 as well. The last time the Nationals, well, it says Washington Nationals. Actually, back then they were called the Washington Senators. But anyway, the last time that Washington was in the World Series, again, 33, they did face New York. And it was the New York Giants, who now are in San Francisco, who Willie Mays played for. And remember what they just did to Willie Mays, dead at 93, and then they had the Negro League tribute game on the 93rd day of the MLB season right after his death. But just this guy getting called up shortly after that, so I'm thinking that this guy might turn out to be a pretty big star in the league. He's got all the numbers, he's got the name, he's got the birthday, all these things, just the way it lines up. I don't think it's an accident. Order of Illuminati, founded by the Jesuit, equals 201 and 93. In light of the Willie Mays thing, just right before this. And sure enough, the Nationals did lose yesterday, staying on 39 wins versus New York. New York 39. We thought Houston would win yesterday to become 3-1 versus the Blue Jays for the year. Houston equals 31. Not only did they become 3-1 versus the Blue Jays for the year, they won 3-1. And Rockies, we thought Rockies might do something in this series. They come out with a nail biter of a win. So nice little day in baseball yesterday. WNBA scripted the same way. Indiana Fever with the big upset the other day, becoming 8-12 when Indiana's got the 812 area code. Last night, Mercury coach had all the numbers to lose to the Connecticut Sun coach. All these sports are scripted. Men's, women's, college, pro. You can bet on it. It's scripted. And here, we'll talk more about this, but yesterday something showed up in my Twitter about I actually reshared it. I was debating on resharing it on my Twitter page because it had a Christian guy's perspective, and I don't like really religious dogma, and listening to religious people is usually like, listening to people that are 10,000 pay grades below you. But the one reason I reshared his video is because he had an observation in there. I haven't seen the Truman Show in forever, and the observation that he had is the reason I reshared it. It's about how right in the beginning of the movie, a Dalmatian comes up and jumps on Jim Carrey's character, Truman Burbank, and the name of the dog is Pluto. And of course, if you don't know that Pluto was discovered the same year that Disney created the character Pluto, if you don't know about all these things, look into that. These are things we've talked about many a times. But it is wild that the Truman Show begins with the dog Pluto, because remember, Pluto has a 248-year orbital cycle. And July 4th, the United States of America is going to turn 248 years old, which means, where Pluto is in the sky is going to be exactly where it was when this country was created. And Pluto is the root word of plutocracy, which is rich. I don't know why. It's weird. Every time I have to say what plutocracy is, I always start out by saying that. It's rich. And I don't mean to say that ever. It's being ruled over by the rich. That's what plutocracy is, which is what we have. We live in a plutocracy. Donald Trump is symbolic of that. This guy born with a silver spoon in his mouth. So anyway, right after that scene is we've talked about this many times before. The light falls out of. If you've never seen first of all, if you've never seen this movie, The Truman Show, you should watch it. It's probably named after the 33rd president, Truman, who helped install the surveillance state in a major way. But it's about a man who lives in a reality TV show that he doesn't realize that. Everybody around him in his world is an actor. He's the only non-actor. He's the only true person. He's the only true man. So, anyhow, in the opening scene, the dog named Pluto jumps on him, and then the light falls out of the sky, and it has Sirius written on it. And of course, Sirius is the dog star. And the heliacal rising of Sirius has changed as time has gone on because, again, the stars move. Um, it's crazy how many flat earthers are just so dumb and they say things like the stars never move. Eddie Bravo, for example, total retard, on the record saying stars never move. Again, these are the opinions of total retards who have no idea about anything. Again, stars do move. They move 1 degree on the astrological wheel every 72 years. Part of the reason that 72 is so special to the Jesuits. But the heliacal rising of Sirius has changed over time. So at this current time, the heliacal rising of Sirius is July 19th. And this year, that'll be the 201st day of the year, right? So that'll also be 15 days after the country turns 248. And Truman, who represents this guy living in a world where he's being lied to and manipulated, the world around him is a farce. His world's turned upside down after his day starts off with a dog named Pluto jumping on him and Sirius falling out of the sky, or at least the light in the sky named Sirius. Again, you guys, we're at this very interesting moment with the superior general being 75 and the Pope being 87, when the founder of the Jesuits, Ignatius Loyola, has that 75-87 connection. What's written on the light in the Truman Show is Sirius, and then in parentheses 9 Canis Major, which is the constellation it's in. But there was something I've been overlooking all these years about constellations. Ptolemy, who's the Greek, who was backed by the Catholic Church, who created the mathematically provable geocentric model. Before, in the 16th century, they went to the heliocentric model. Remember, heliocentrism is 201, just like the Jesuit order, and then that was established in the 16th century, the century of the Jesuits. But Ptolemy, the Greek mathematicians who thought the Earth was at the center and everything was going around it, he created the mathematical model that had accurate predictions for what was happening in the skies. Ptolemy thought there were 48 constellations, right? So I was overlooking this because I've always talked about the 88 constellations, which is also important, which is the modern thing. But Ptolemy saw it as 48 constellations. Isn't it interesting that the character named Truman Burbank is 48? And one of those 48 constellations was Canis Major, which is what's written on the light that falls out of the sky in the movie. But Truman Burbank 48, like Jim Carrey, you'll see this so much in Hollywood where the character name equals the actor name. Hollywood equals 48, like Illuminati. And in light of Truman being the 33rd president, remember the divisors of 33, if you add them together, equate to 48. That's 1, 3, 11, and 33. Jim Carrey's full name, James Eugene Carey, 95, like Sirius. You know, the thing that really gets him right at the beginning. And remember, just the whole thing with Trump. I was just thinking about just a parallel between kind of the way Donald Trump has been to Truman Burbank. Because really, since Trump announced that he was running in 2015, he has, in a lot of ways, been the center of the world for the media. I mean, has there been a single day since 2015 where Trump didn't have some big commanding headline that almost overshadowed everything else? It really has been that way since he announced he was running. And we've been making that point about how he announced in the time of the hit show House of Cards, and Trump cards are top cards that trump everything else. Again, just this Jesuit goon. But remember, Trump had the mugshot on 24/8, the 24th of August, that got everybody's attention. And we were shown how that was synced up with the Illuminati turning 248 and the country turning 248. And then lo and behold, he was in the Manhattan Criminal Court, which equals 248. at the time of the Illuminati's 248th birthday, which was this year, May 1st. Remember what they did for him in court. That was the one day they gave him a break. They gave Trump a break to campaign on the Illuminati's 248th birthday. It's like, okay, isn't that obvious? Just like how big of a script it is. Out of all the days he could have gotten a break, they just happened to do it on the Illuminati's 248th birthday. Donald Trump equals 48, like Illuminati, like Hollywood, where he comes from, just like Jim Carrey. And, just the reference to Truman in the name of the film, it's presidential. As sad as it is to say, Donald Trump's been just every president in my lifetime has been a complete joke. Every single one. And nearly every single one's been Jesuit educated. If they weren't Jesuit educated, they were members of Skull and Bones. That's pretty much. Or they went to Columbia like Obama. But okay, Trump's got the 88 connection going with the modern day 88 constellations, and Truman, the president, did die at age 88. He became vice president in 45. He was a senator until 45 when he became VP. He took office in 45 as well. That's right. He took office as president in 45. He died in 72 as well, the year that Joe Biden became senator-elect. Harry S. Truman equals 59, like how all those years later, Biden would win the 59th election. But yeah, just this whole thing about the Truman Show and the nation's 248th birthday. History by the numbers. In recent years, Jim Carrey was getting attention for doing all these images that showed what a joke Donald Trump was as the president. Drinking bleach, Grim Reaper over the face. I'm not sure exactly what that one's about. I forget. I'm not sure. Anyone got what this references to with the Grim Reaper over Trump's face? Make America die for him with the breathing machine over his face. It's crazy how isn't it funny how they make it seem like because of Donald Trump, a lot of people died from the pandemic, but it's like, wasn't he right out there on the anniversary of Claydex, urging Operation Warp Speed? And I mean, didn't we have the jabs just days after the UK had them? It's just, all this crap propaganda they put out. It's like, well, the real reason that he had to do with the mass deaths was because of all the suicides from the shitty policy and the people who went in and got killed on the breathing machines and who took the experimental jabs and now their hearts don't work. I mean, isn't that the real reason? I know that thing didn't help save anybody's life. I mean, I look at my sister. She just can't stop being sick. She's just sick all the time now. She got all of her jabs. She's the only one in my family who didn't listen to what I said. I got everybody else in the family to listen. She was just hard-headed older sister. She's like my second mom because she's 12 years older than me, but I actually just found out some sad news. All this time, I thought one of her children didn't get the jab. And then I just found out that recently he did get it because his father made him get it. His father was going to cut him off financially if he didn't get the jab. And in hindsight, he probably should have just said, okay, I don't need any money. I'm old enough to work. But again, I think a lot of people got the placebo version and some people drew the short stick. So anyway, yeah, might have to go back and rewatch the Truman Show because the dog Pluto and then Sirius coming down. I think we're on the verge of some really big things here, and that's what we've been saying for a long time about how right when we got to this time period around June 1st, 2024. I mean, we called this out years ago. Around June 1st, 2024, we said there's going to be big fireworks in the world, and we've been dead on about that. You know, the Trump guilty ruling, the Hunter Biden guilty ruling, what's going on? You know, that's the other thing that's annoying too, is like America's acting surprised right now about Joe Biden's performance at the debate. Doesn't that in itself, like a whole week of this now, like, oh, can you believe the way he performed? It's just like, yeah, I mean, who's surprised? Who's surprised about the way he performed? How come they're not bringing us on to lay out how we pointed out before, how it was 220 days after his birthday, and how that pointed to Trump, where the inauguration's 220 days after his birthday? And by the way, look at the day the Truman Show came out also. Anything stand out about that date? June 5th, the anniversary of Reagan's death. Always big rituals on June 5th. Date can be written 5-6, like 56, like the Society of Jesus, like Washington, D.C. Jim Carrey out there mocking the Illuminati on Jimmy Kimmel, who broadcasts from the Masonic Temple of Hollywood. You know, the word Freemason, for the record, is also 48. Okay. Yeah, just again, if you got here late, we went over a lot of headlines, including this one. Thanks to the pandemic, the world has $91 trillion in debt. The Society of Jesus, 91. 91's the 13th triangular number as well, and debt equals 13. All world currencies pegged to the 13 stripes. Yeah, Joe Biden coming out and saying that we don't live in the United States isn't a land of kings is just a blatantly false statement. Yes, it is. Everyone should have known that in 2000. King George II came down to where his brother was the governor. That's a sign that families like kings and bloodlines run the nation. And then again, we were going back and digging up the articles from 2008 when Obama won about all the bloodlines that connect the presidencies. I mean, it's been kings for a long time here. All these guys do to you is lie to you every day. So yeah, Hurricane Beryl now a Category 5. They're saying tomorrow it's going to hit Jamaica. Jamaica's got the 52 connection like hurricane, so let's hope it dies down and isn't as bad as they're saying. But remember what we said? We said that we expected this to be a very, very bad year for hurricanes. And we said that last year when Maui happened, and the reason we did is because of this guy right here. The whole Maui thing was synced with The Rock announcing the live action of Moana. And they've had The Rock in plenty of films about natural disasters. But again, if you missed last year's work on Maui and The Rock's character Maui in Moana and how his announcement was perfectly synced. Again, if you haven't seen the live action announcement for Moana, it begins with an island just bursting into flames, like what happened to Maui. But we were pointing out how last year he'd turned 51, which means he began his 52nd year of life. And we said, man, next year, this guy that they've been thinking of natural disasters with, because he's played the part in Hollywood movies, he's going to be 52 on 5-2, the hurricane, flood, weather warfare number. And look at what they're telling you. I mean, looks like another accurate prediction in the books, because they're saying this hurricane is way earlier than normal and way more destructive than normal. And the reason they're saying that is because ocean waters are getting warmer thanks to climate change. But is it thanks to climate change, or is it thanks to weather warfare and the advancements of weather warfare, something that's been admitted to since 1952? So he was that's the other thing about The Rock. That was the other thing about The Rock that I almost forgot. He was a Miami Hurricane. He played for their football team. So that's why we're saying just the way these people operate, the New World Order, the cabal, it's all symbolism, syncing big rituals up with big actors on the world stage. Dwayne The Rock Johnson, the former Miami Hurricane. Here's a headline. Jamie Foxx shares details about health crisis. Remember, Jamie Foxx equals 107. He finally spoke the day they put out They Cloned Tyrone, which shows that they're purposely fucking with black people in underground labs that are under churches hidden by IHS symbols, which is the Jesuit acronym for Jesus Hominum Salvator. But Jamie Foxx equals 107. In the beginning of the film, they find Jamie Foxx, who'd been missing. And just like he was missing in the beginning of the film, if you haven't seen it, but they find him in hotel room, or it's motel. A motel is when it opens up to the outside. I used to wonder for years what the difference was, a hotel and a motel. If the door of your room opens to the outside world, That's a motel. If it opens to a hallway with a whole bunch of other doorways to other rooms, that's a hotel. But this is the headline that I actually saw before I saw the Jamie Foxx one. How to avoid the stupid American stereotype while traveling abroad. It's probably impossible for the average American, a nation of purposely bred morons who know nothing about nothing. So anyway, we'll leave it there, you guys. Early stream. Wanted to knock out some headlines. And again, thank you to everyone who hits the like and the share. And we'll leave it there.